Hey everybody, Mac the Monster, back with Marvel Heroes, and this time we got Iron Fist on the chopping block. And it's been a couple days, but with the holidays I've had things to do, so I had to take a little time to get those done. But we got Iron Fist here, and he's a new character. I didn't like him so much leveling at first. It took a little time. Not my favorite character, but he works. He'll get the job done. Um, he's got a couple things that lead me to not liking him that caused a lot of problems. First thing is his AoE, which is basically key burst here. It's a real high attack speed, which makes it a real low damage skill, which means you have to floor it to do damage to enemies. And so if you come across a large group of enemies, you're going to take a lot of damage. He's got a high defense, but the damage comes through and you get whittled away, making him very squishy for a melee character. I would have preferred this to be a low attack speed, high damage skill, so at least you don't take so much damage coming through. I found him not so good to level with. I find that he can do, once you get to level 47 or so, he can get to be much more fun to play and actually do really high single target damage. And, well, pretty decent single target damage anyways with his signature. His signature is really cool. However, it's non-AoE, it's only single target, it won't bail you out of any situations. He's very single target oriented. His new mechanic is key. It's really not a new mechanic at all. If you played Punisher, it's basically like ammo. He's a copy and paste Punisher, except there's no AoE at all besides key burst. You gotta stand still to use it. You can't really move to use it. It kind of sucks. And then another problem is to get key, you get these stances, and you get stance openers, like this tiger stance here is what we're going to be using here. And there's 5 different stance openers. And tiger stance gives us a nice little buff with some critical hit rating on it, which is why I like tiger stance. But this is how we get key. It restores 100% of your maximum key. So I'm going to hit tiger stance here. So to get my key, I hit tiger stance, and it gives me a strike. So if I'm running around and I'm out of I'm out of key, I have to use my strike to get key, so I lose an attack already. And so now I get key and I want to do key burst. I can't move. I got to sit here and do this, and it doesn't do a huge amount of damage. And so I got to take the damage to do it and use it, and it burns key. And before you hit level 47, you have to use 2 different stances to get your key because the stances themselves have a 16-second cooldown. It gets pretty messy. To use 2 different stances and use all their powers, you're going to need double ability bars, and that gets even worse on a single target character. It's horrible. However, once you get 47, you can set it up so you don't need that. You can also set it up so you don't need that. You can just use the stances and you don't need their secondary abilities. For instance, Tiger Stance second ability is Fury of the 500 Fists. You don't necessarily need this, and then say you're using Crane Stance here. You don't need Crane's secondary ability, which was some kick here. Do this leopard. Yeah, Good Fortune Thunder Kick. You don't need to use both of these because you can see if you put Crane Stance on the bar, you're running out of bar space here. You're already out of space. You have to put it someplace else. You'd have to run another ability bar, and then you have to switch between bars to get the other kick. Then you have to switch back to go back to the other bar. That's annoying. I hate that. So I automatically hate characters like that. Um, but there's a workaround once you hit 47 anyways. However, it does gate you into one specialization to get the workaround, or it gates you into not fully exploiting the character's potential. That's the other way. So anyways, I do have a build for him. I call it the Tiger. We've already covered some of it, but we'll go into it. It's going to be 20 points into Fury of 5 Forces. This is a key spender. It does physical damage. Um, he is a physical and mental damage character, which is another reason why I don't like him. He's got two damages that don't work together very well. So we don't get to exploit it as well as we should. Even though he's two damage types, I'm not a power cosmic on him. And although you could power dupe him, but it's only physical and mental, and they're not the kind, it's not the damage bonuses that you want off the power dupe, unfortunately. So we got physical damage here. It does okay damage, especially while it's a stance opener is on cooldown. So you always want a stance opener on cooldown. It does a pretty high attack speed rate, and it costs 50 ki. Now the fact that it's got a high attack speed rate is a problem because you're burning ki down, which means you're going to have the stance openers available to get the ki. Now, stance openers basically put you into a stance like I did, and each different stance opener, like I'll get Tiger Crane stance, this is Crane Kick, it says melee stance opener, changes your ki bar and lets you know that you're in a different stance. See, that's Crane now. And because of my specialization, I can only have one type active. So I'll go into Tiger, and Tiger changes the ki bar. So as long as it's on cooldown, this will get 25% extra damage. So it's a nice damaging ability. We're going to use that as our basic attack. We're going to put 20 points into Fury of the 500 Fists here. This is the Tiger Stance special ability. It does physical damage per 5 hits. And then a finishing strike effect while in Tiger Stance. It does an extra big hit of physical damage. And then while you're using this, you take 50% less damage while the power is active, and it costs 175 ki, and it's on a 4-second cooldown. You can see where ki starts getting spent up when you only have 1,016 ki. Like unto our iron, we're going to do 20 points into that as well. This is your signature ability. This hits like a truck. It does targeted physical damage, 130,000 to 196,000. Then it does a key mental wave. I guess it does do an area effect, but it's just not that big. And it does mental damage, which sucks because you're just not going to gear for mental damage. 50,000 to 78,000, and then additional bonuses based on your current stance. Crane, you would regenerate health. Leopard, you would have cooldowns refreshed. Tiger, this always critical hits, which is another reason why I went Tiger. Dragon, you gain invulnerability, and then Serpent, your key wave portion is removed, and the targeted portion deals 100% extra damage, making Serpent another way to go. It's on a high cooldown, 35 seconds. It's not terrible. And then key cost reduction of affix is reduced the power's cooldown instead of reducing key costs, which is nice. So this cooldown gets reduced quite a bit. When I say it's on a high cooldown, this has already been reduced by 12%. And the max you can reduce it is by 50%. So this is a nice little signature. It hits pretty hard when you're dealing with a boss, and that's about what it's good for. We're going to do 20 points into Tiger Scratch. This is the stance opener for Tiger. It does do 2 hits at a pretty good damage rate, 30 to 47,000. Remember, this is ungeared. All this is ungeared. It restores the 100% of your maximum ki. It enters Tiger Stance and it's on a 16-second cooldown. And then it gives you critical hit rating. This right now is at 293, and it gives you accuracy, so you get more critical hit rating and critical damage rating, which is why I went Tiger Stance over the Serpent Stance, even though it's 100% extra damage in your signature. the crit rating is going to, and crit damage rating is going to pay out over the long run. And then we're going to do 20 points to Champion of Kunlun. This is your damage rating passive. It's going to give you damage rating, critical hit rating, brutal strike rating, and an extra damage rating to your stance opening powers, which is alright, but like I said, half the time you're spending your stance openers when you're not even in combat with targets, because you need ki to use ki burst to take on AoE targets. It's funky how it works. You'll see it's very clumsy. Okay, we're going to do 20 points to Ki Burst. We got to kill AoE packs, and this is the only way to do it. And it's only good, really, on large groups of blues. You can use it on. It's going to take forever to kill them, and it's really good on the white trash, though. You're going to want to use Fury of 5 Forces on blues, though, if you can. If you only got 1 or 2, you're going to want to burn them down with single target damage. And then if you got big packs of blues, you can use the Ki Burst, but it takes a while to burn them down, which means you're taking a lot of damage. You're better off single targeting. And you're going to do 20 points to Ki Overload. This gives you some extra damage when it's activated. This is a buff. It lasts 8 seconds on a 20-second cooldown. It has different effects by specialization. So this gives us 2% crit chance, critical damage rating. It gives us brutal damage rating. It gives us maximum health. And your current active stance is maintained for the duration of the effect of Ki Overload, even if a different stance is activated. So it allows 2 stances to be maintained for a time period while this is active. It's a very interesting thing, so you can have 2 stances operating. It's pretty cool. However, it should have been a passive altogether instead of a buff, because it would have gotten rid of a button on the bar, and it would have easily run great as a passive. You know, for 8 seconds after using a stance opener, your current stance that you're in stays active. It would have been so easy to tag. So you have 3 specializations to pick from. This one, Ki Overload's cooldown is reduced by 12 seconds, and Ki Overload's duration is increased by 2 seconds. And that's Twin Styles, and this is Ki Overload right here. So this allows you to chain styles and have styles active all the time. So that's pretty good, but again, you're really going to have to love, having a multiple ability bar. Grandmaster. When you use a stance opener, you gain a stack of Ki Mastery, stacking up to 5 times. Stacks are lost if you use a stance combo power, which means you can't use any combo powers. When you reach 5 stacks, stance opener powers like Onto Iron's cooldown is reduced to 5 by 5 seconds. The next like Onto Iron gains all beneficial stance opener effects from all 5 stances and consumes the stacks. So basically this soups up like Onto Iron. So you'd really want to be specializing into the signature. So basically it kind of sucks. It's not the greatest specialization. Not a lot of thought going into these specializations and how they function. However, dedicated form. This reduces the cooldown of all stance opening powers by 8 seconds, but they now share a cooldown. Ki Overload reduces all cooldowns by 8 seconds and reduces power cooldowns by 25 seconds while active. And when you use a stance opener, you gain Ki Mastery stack. This stacks up to 5 times, but the stacks reset if you use a different stance opener. Ki Mastery stacks increase the effectiveness of a stack affix by 20% per stack. So what this means is as long as you use the same stance, you gain a Ki Mastery. And each Ki Mastery increases the effectiveness of that stack by 20% up to 100%. And that will basically double the effect of your Tiger stance. So we're always going to use Tiger stance. We're never going to change Tiger stance. And we're going to get double crit rating. is effectively what it's saying. And it's reducing the cooldown from 16 seconds to 8 seconds, so we can always stay in Tiger stance. And every 8 seconds, we'll be able to maintain our ki, which means we'll be able to use all our powers, because there's enough ki in there to maintain our powers, which really makes it useless to have the stance opener to begin with, because we're never really running out of ammo or ki in this matter. So the character is not really well done, which is why I don't like it. It's kind of pointless. It's annoying to have to hit the stance opener when you really don't need to hit the stance opener. It could have been not done this way, and then it would have been taken off the bar, and then your bar would have been freed up, and then the people who want to run 2 stances would have had action bar space to actually be able to use the action bar again. This is just my opinion. This is why I just don't like the character. I think it was sloppily done, and it was just done in a hurry. So, oh, I gotta do gearing. So, I got one more still too. Jeez, I want to be done. I just don't like the character. We got a defensive passive, a mortal weapon. It's actually a good defensive passive. You're able to see enemies on the minimap. I always like that. Damage reduction 8%, defense rating, total defense rating plus 25%. That's an interesting feature. Total defense rating plus 25%. That's a lot of extra bonus deflection defense rating. So it puts him way up there in defense, and he still needs it. He still takes tons of damage. It's crazy. Dodge rating and total dodge rating plus 25%. So he needs all this defense and all this damage reduction, and he still takes tons of damage. You'll have to see it to understand, unless you're playing it, and then you probably already do understand. So for gearing, I got a Taskmaster's fighting guide for losers, and it's blessed with brutal strike chance from Gila. His crit rating for me is somewhere around 54%. It's really a little too much crit rating. I should knock it off, but I don't want to re-roll my costume, which has grade 4 with crit rating. It really should be crit damage rating, and that would knock me down to around 51% crit rating. And then I would have critical damage rating all in the costume, which would really boost up his DPS. But going back to Taskmasters, it just has the nice crit hit rating to melee attacks. It has base damage versus bosses. He's a boss character. It's got damage rating. He's a boss killer, so I went with the boss killer artifact. Blessed Hand of Doom. At first, he was missing critical hit rating, and then once I started really gearing him, he wasn't missing it, so I went with the Hand of Doom, and I still like the Hand of Doom. It's got the damage rating, crit rating, and more importantly, it's got brutal strike rating, which is really what I was gunning for, trying to back up all that crit rating with brutal strike rating so I can get some brutal strikes going on. I got the Curse Medallion. Again, it's got critical hit rating, but more importantly, brutal strike rating to back up the critical hit ratings. And it's got melee physical damage. I'm going with the physical damage. I'm backing up all his melee powers. The only thing that's mental is part of the signature, which is the AoE effect and the AoE of Ki Burst. And I'm not caring so much about Ki Burst because that's really just dealing with the trash. And as long as you're fast, with getting out of high trash situations, like high density situations, it's really not a problem just to single target it down. Blessed Gem of the Curse. It's a Gem of the Curse. It's got brutal strike chance, critical damage rating, brutal damage rating, and crit hit. I mean, it's obvious. Blessed Armor issued Nano Poison, +2 fighting, and more brutal strike chance. Yeah, you can't lose. And brutal damage rating. Got a little bit of a cold, sorry. I got a Gugner here. Seeing how he's so crit intensive, you gotta go with a Gugner. I mean, why not? You could go with the Power Cosmic because there is mental damage available to use, but then you'd have to use Key Burst every 8 seconds or so just to maintain the buff effects. And you could use a power dupe on your rune word, which I'm using right now, Bone Breaker, because it's pretty easy to get, and everyone should be able to have that. Um, I'm not 100% sold on. I think you could probably squeeze out extra DPS with the Power Cosmic. You'd probably get there. Um, well, you definitely get there. The Power Cosmic will beat out Gugner. However, your rotation would get kind of weird, which might diminish the real power of the Power Cosmic. So, what I'm saying is, or I'm trying to say is, even though the Power Cosmic has higher DPS, crazy higher DPS than Gugner, Gugner's rotation is much more fluid, so I like it better, and that's why I went with Gugner. Anyways, I got a Cosmic Ring. I didn't want to invest anything more quality like a unique ring, but this is a pretty good Cosmic Ring. It's a critical hit damage rating, brutal strike rating, health and defense ring. It definitely buffs them up. It's Cosmic with +1 to all abilities. This is a +3 fighting. +3 fighting will buff up all his damage, obviously. It works for his mental and physical, and it's +1 to signature powers, but this is +2 to physical damage, so it works for what I'm really looking for. I got Insignia of the Daredevil, so when you Brutal Strike, I get melee damage, Brutal Strike rating with melee powers, Brutal Damage rating. This has got Brutal Strike chance, and this has got health. He needs health. Because I'm going so crit damage heavy on his costume, I'm not really going for health, which is another reason why he's weaker. I can't really complain too much that he's weaker because I'm not going for health so much. So I got a lot of crit damage on his costume, and really it should be all crit damage. But I got a core that's a 3-to-1 core with physical damage, mental damage on it, and 3,000 life with 100 key when I use a med kit. And really it's all about getting that life. I got Relics of Atlantis for critical hit damage rating and some health. And then I got his full kit here with uniques. I got his Hood of Bihar. This has got the base damage reduction, increased duration of key burst weaken effect by 2 seconds. That's alright. 1400 health, 1000 critical damage rating, 860 brutal damage rating, 190 critical hit rating, 330 brutal strike rating, +5 ranks to passive powers, which is pretty nice. +4 ranks to Iron Fist's key control powers, and +5 ranks to area powers. So that's pretty handy. Got Danny Rand's Kung Fu Shoes, 5.8 damage reduction, 1400 health, 6% attack speed. Attack speed's iffy on this guy because it means more key spending, but there's enough key it seems to go around, so I guess it doesn't matter. 360 critical hit rating, extra defense when you get hurt, +1 speed, +2 ranks to all powers, +2 ranks to stance combo powers, +5 ranks to key overload. Orson Randall's Bandoliers, 5.5% damage reduction, 1600 health, 400 dodge, a chance to ignore ranged attacks. When you use a stance power, you gain damage rating and critical hit rating for 15 seconds. That stacks 3 times. I don't know if you can actually get 3 stacks out of that, but I guess it stacks 3 times. Minus 8% key cost, +2 ranks to all powers, +5 ranks to Good Fortune Thunder Kick. You don't use that, so I guess they wanted you to go Crane Kick, or Crane Stance, but you don't actually use that for this build. +5 ranks to Iron Fist's Fighting Focus Power, so that's pretty awesome right there. And then Hal 3's Bodysuit. I probably murdered that name. 8.7% damage reduction, 1700 health, 90, or that's useless, 120 health rating, or deflect rating, 680 brutal damage rating, 2.4% less damage from area powers. When you hit with Lycon to Iron, you get +2 fighting and +2 durability for 15 seconds, +2 ranks to all powers, +4 ranks to stance openers, +3 ranks to Fury of 5 forces. That's pretty cool. And then finally, the mighty Asgardian Mace. It's kind of funny. It doesn't even look like a mace. It looks like a chain weapon, but we'll call it a mace. This is a little bit lower level, but I didn't feel like rolling for a higher level one. It's 51. It's good enough. 625 damage rating. This one's got 900 brutal damage rating, 900 critical damage rating, plus 2 fighting. When you hit with any power, regenerate 200 health. That's pretty cool right there. 730 health. When you critically hit with a melee power, increase your attack speed by 2% for 5 seconds, stacking 3 times. Plus 5 ranks to all Iron Fist's martial arts powers. Plus 2 ranks to melee powers. Plus 3 ranks to like onto iron. And that's his kit. Well, just to show, you can see his original costume here. Wasn't a fan. I like the all white, so I went with it. And we'll go take on Cosmic Dr. Octopus and see how the trash goes. See, to have key, I automatically have to get rid of. So all I've done in the bar is I put Fury of the Five Fists on my left mouse button. You get 1 point already in Ninjutsu Dash, and I put it here. And another thing I don't like is Ninjutsu Dash doesn't spend ki unless you have ki, and then every 2 seconds it does a ki burst costing 60 ki, which means you lose ki and you can't save ki. Kind of doesn't matter because you want to be on cooldown anyways with Tiger Stance, but you know, when I was leveling, I wanted to save ki because I was running out of I was always not having a stance available to go use, and then when you're dashing around in combat, you're wasting ki on the dash. Just another complaint. And then I have my Tiger Stance, my Fury 500 Fists, Ki Overload here. I don't use Ki Overload too much, but I usually hit it before I use Like Onto Iron. So Like Onto Iron has all the buffs available. And then Like Onto Iron, after that, I'll just start rotating through the Tiger Scratch and everything like that. It works really well on the bosses. I have buttons on the mouse, so I use Ki Burst over here on button 1, and then I use the mouse to cast it. You can see it takes forever to burn down blues. And then you run out of ki. It gets annoying. And you have to stand still to cast it. It gets annoying. And then you end up trying to AoE, but you gotta stand still and do this strike to get your ki back. It's kind of clumsy.
Nothing like destroying things to get your ki moving.
And then let's get our, oh there it was, bounty hunter box going. So I needed ki, so I had to punch in midair just to get ki. It's funny. I was doing that all day. How do I get over there? I'm missing something. Let's go kill these guys.
It's important to maintain a clear battlefield. This ain't your business, pal. Take 'em out.
What did I miss? What am I missing? That's what I'm missing. Right in front of my eyes. See look at all that damage I'm taking. Dealing with those blues, they can get off all those hits. Because I'm standing there just repeatedly attacking on a low damage skill. Come on. Key, give me key. And then you have to attack air to get your key. You have to wait for that attack animation to finish to get your key. Oh, this is going to be deadly. Also, I don't like his charge. It's far too short for combat. You can see this is his charge. It does really short. Here's his signature. That big punch. Yeah, that's Dr. Octopus. He does pretty good single target. He's really not that awesome in single target, so that's why he just doesn't stand out to me. I guess I'm really spoiled after Magic. I mean, she does pretty good, and a few other characters did much better. It's like they really rushed him. So if you got him, this is the best I could come up with. I like the Tiger stance. It seems like that's what you'd want to use. Maybe the crane stance or the serpent stance you could use to get a higher damage signature ability. Crane stance because it has +5 ranks to the crane kick. But I don't know. I thought it was sloppy. If you don't have them, I wouldn't bother with them. I wouldn't waste your money or your splinters. There's far better characters out there. Far better characters. So that's just my opinion. So I hope it helps. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to everybody real soon.